It is very possible that we could have a female president by the end of the year, but not for the reasons you may think. If you've seen my other videos that I filmed on the 2024 election, then you probably remember me saying that I just couldn't tune into it, and there was some fuckery, some cloudiness behind anything that's going to happen. Now that it's getting closer, a couple things look very likely. I've also been diving deeper into the astrology of this. You can find my past videos in this playlist. Kamala Harris just had her 60th birthday, so she is now in a first house perfection year, making her Time Lord for this year ahead Mercury. And we are about to have a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius in her 7th house. We'll be going over her south node, and the pre-shadow begins the day after the election. It will be in a challenging aspect with her midheaven. She also has Saturn moving over her Chiron in the 10th house as well. Not only that, but like I talked about in my other video, Pluto going back into Capricorn is in a challenging aspect with her sun in Libra and moon in Aries. By the way, she was born on a full moon. All the major candidates, even RFK Jr., this year were born on a full moon. Now, not only does she have a Mercury retrograde happening in her 7th house, but the full moon in Taurus on the 15th will be on her natal Jupiter in the 12th house of what's hidden. So this could bring some things to light about her, maybe as her time during a public defender or something. It'll also be squaring her natal Saturn and her natal Mars in the 3rd house of media and communication. The release of that T-square in Scorpio, where the sun will be during the full moon in her 6th house of day-to-day work, affairs, and hidden enemies. Like the video I did on her before, I really think something is going to come to light. We've already had quite a bit of things come to light about her, exposing things that she has just flat out not told the truth about. But this whole thing could bring up something bigger, more major, more widespread news. Could also be something that happens with the current president, Joe Biden, where she has to step up. Kind of like what happened with Nixon when he got impeached. I think it's going to be something related to Joe Biden's health, where Kamala Harris is then going to have to step up because she is VP. But like I said in my most recent video about this election, because we're about to be in a Mercury retrograde, and this is Kamala's Time Lord this year, the Mercury retrograde will be happening in the U.S.'s 1st house. Will begin on November 26th and last until December 15th, the same day we have a full moon in Gemini, right on Kamala Harris's North and South node and her ascendant. Saturn will be direct at this point as well, going back over her Chiron in the 10th house. And on the time of the full moon in Gemini, Jupiter will be squaring Saturn and her Chiron again. It will also be squaring her Uranus and Pluto and Venus in the 4th house. Uranus rules chaotic change, Pluto rules power dynamics, and Venus rules values. So it's kind of giving like someone that's chaotically put in power because something happening to the current president. But because of that, things come to light, get exposed that weren't exposed to us before. By this time too, Pluto will be in 0 degrees Aquarius, making a challenging aspect to Kamala Harris's Mercury in Scorpio. There's just so much going on. End of this year will literally be one for the history books, and I haven't even gotten into Donald Trump's chart because his is equally as crazy. So, Donald Trump's chart. That's just so insane. I can't. Okay, so I started with Kamala Harris's Time Lord. Donald Trump's Time Lord for this year is his 7th house ruler, Aquarius, which is Saturn and Uranus. Uranus is currently moving over his midheaven in the 10th house. Uranus is very Aquarian energy. It is innovation, change that is needed, but it can come pretty chaotically and pretty suddenly. No one expects it. Not only that, but Uranus is in a challenging aspect with his natal Mars in the 1st house of aggression, planet of violence, and we're about to have a Mars retrograde that will begin on his natal Pluto. Mars on Pluto is a scary kind of transit, especially with someone who's such in the public eye and space and doing something like trying to become the president of the United States. It's giving people want to aggressively remove him from any kind of power that he has. The Mercury retrograde we have in Sagittarius will be in Trump's 5th house. It will go over his south node and moon and be opposite his natal Uranus, north node, and sun of long-term visions, goals, and creative passions. Because Saturn and Uranus are his time lords, honestly, I'm more focused on what those are doing in his chart around this time, because while the Mercury retrograde is important, it doesn't seem to be a key player as it is in Kamala's chart. So Saturn is currently in Pisces in his 8th house. It is in a challenging aspect to his natal Uranus and will be in a challenging aspect to Jupiter that is moving over his north node and natal Uranus. Like other people have said, this full moon in Taurus looks kind of crazy for him because it'll be right on his midheaven conjunct Uranus. And at that time, the sun in Scorpio will be in a harmonious aspect to his natal Saturn and Venus in the 12th house of what's hidden. So again, could illuminate things about him that were previously hidden. And the Mars retrograde will be going over his Saturn as well. Interestingly enough, Trump is going to have the south node on his Neptune at this time as well, which I've talked about in other videos. This is like illusion, deception within the media, like his words getting skewed kind of thing. And I think I said this in another video, but the biggest thing I think the Mercury retrograde is going to cause in terms of this election in general is we're not going to have answers about it for a while. It could even take until the full moon in Gemini to get concrete answers on who is going to actually be voted in Inauguration Day. This is the astrology of Inauguration Day, and in of itself looks absolutely freaking insane. If you want me to go into it more on my YouTube, let me know in the comments, and I will. But just the fact that we have the sun on Pluto that day, and when the swearing in is supposed to begin. The ascendant will be in Taurus, and by the end, moving over Uranus and Taurus. And Mars will be retrograde in Cancer over the United States' own Mercury. Like I said, this is for the history books. Let's chat about it in the comments.